Hey, it's me again, coming from yet another background to give you yet another book review. An Abundance of Katherines by John Green. John Green's second book is obviously meant to be considerably lighter than his first book. I mean, his first book was all death, angst, and his second book has a lot more fluff. It's a teen romance, the guy gets the girl at the end, you know, that sort of thing. But it's still a John Green novel, and so there are still larger implications to be taken in, and that, of course, is what makes this a favorite. So, Colin Singleton is a child prodigy. He started reading when he was like 2.5 years old. He is a master at anagramming, he is great at memorizing completely useless trivia and spouting it off, and he learns and understands things really, really quickly. And at the beginning of this story, he has just been dumped by a girl named Katherine for the 19th time. Yes, Colin has dated 19 girls, all by the name of Katherine, K-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E. And it is this tendency that leads Colin to attempt to come up with the theorem. The theorem involves a lot of complicated math that I don't even pretend to understand, but pretty much it's supposed to predict the outcome of any relationship. And it's all dependent on whether or not you are a dumper or a dumpee. Colin, of course, was a dumpee. Now, Colin's whole thing is that he wants to matter. The thing about child prodigies is that once they become adults, their brains function in pretty much the same way as non-prodigy adults. In other words, they don't stay ahead of the curve as adults, and many of them go on to lead completely ordinary and often less than ordinary lives. Very few child prodigies become adult geniuses. Colin Singleton wants to be one of those few. Because to be a prodigy, you basically memorize and process things faster, but you're still memorizing and processing things that people have already thought of. Geniuses, however, have to contribute something new. They have to think of things that no one else has ever thought of before, like Socrates and Galileo and Mozart and Beethoven. And so Colin's hope is that this theorem that he's developing that's supposed to predict the outcome of any relationship will qualify him as a genius. He also harbors a secret hope that it will bring Katherine the 19th back to him. So there are a couple of themes here. One of them is the theme of mattering. There's also a theme of not doing versus doing. Prodigies are not doers, they're just repeaters, and geniuses then are doers. Now the other two major characters of this book are Hassan, Colin's best and in fact only friend, and Lindsay, who of course ends up being the love interest. And both of them echo these themes. Hassan, for instance, is a self-proclaimed not-doer. He's always prided himself at not doing what he's not supposed to do. Smoke, drink, go out with girls, what have you. But Hassan also doesn't do things like go to college or get a job. He prefers to sit on his ass and watch Judge Judy and make funny jokes. And then Lindsay is terrified of mattering. She's terrified of actually being herself. She's always emulating somebody depending on who she happens to be around. And she doesn't want to leave her tiny little town. She wants to stay there and not have to go out and try to matter. And this idea comes to play in many aspects of the novel, everything from the theorem to the fact that Colin can't seem to whisper. It's there, it's buried in the little minutiae of the story. Another theme that runs throughout the book is Colin's complete inability to tell a story. The thing about Colin is that he sees connections in everything, and so anytime he tries to tell a story, he starts going off on all of these random tangents based on the plethora of useless knowledge that he's accumulated over the years. And the book itself, the way the book is written, reflects this struggle of Colin's to try to tell a good story. This book uses footnotes, and as those of you who have read Good Omens know, footnotes in a fictional novel are always pretty frickin' hilarious. The footnotes have several functions. One of them is to give us translations of any Arabic or Greek or Latin words that come up in the novel. But they're also there to give us completely useless knowledge that in no way factors into the plot of the story, but somehow connects to it. Much like Colin does when he goes off on these random tangents. Another writing technique that John Green uses is having a couple of sections that are dialogue only. There's a part in the story where Lindsay shows Colin her secret hideout, which is this cave which is completely dark. Once you turn the lights off, you can't see anything. And so in those moments when they are sitting in complete darkness together, there is no description whatsoever. Not even he said or she said, just the dialogue, just the stuff in between the quotes. which kind of makes us feel that we're in the dark because it's easy to lose track of who's speaking when. And this also underlies the idea that stories, words, are the things that really people remember. And this might be a complete coincidence, this might just be me reading too much into it, but I noticed when I read it through the second time that there are two spots where he goes to dialogue only. He does it once in chapter 14 and once in chapter 19. And both of these chapters, plus the epilogue, are the only ones where there are no footnotes whatsoever. And so maybe it's showing us that his mind is not wandering off into these useless tangents and that everything that is being said matters somehow. But as I said, I might just be reading too much into it. I don't know. But what these things tell us is that it's not so much the people that matter. It's the stories, the words, the dialogue that is going to live on beyond us. And that these stories matter much more than trying to predict the curve of a relationship. So, it's a cutesy teen romance, but it also has some great, larger implications, and so it is quite obviously still on my favorites list. And the next book in the favorite series is going to be The 21 Balloons by, I have to look at the author of this one, William Penne Dubois. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incredibly well. That's all. See you later.